My beloved friends, I speak to you today with deep compassion and loving kindness that flows from my heart to yours. In this moment, as our paths cross in the journey of life, I wish to share wisdom that has transformed countless lives across millennia, the profound teachings on building genuine, nurturing relationships through compassion and empathy. I see in your eyes the same yearning that I encountered thousands of years ago as I walked the paths of ancient India, the universal human desire to love and be loved, to understand and be understood, to find peace amidst life's storms through meaningful connections with others. Though times have changed, the human heart remains constant in its deepest needs. Many of you carry heavy burdens in your relationships, with family, friends, colleagues, and even with yourselves. Some of you feel isolated despite being surrounded by people. Others struggle with conflicts that seem impossible to resolve. And many experience a deep longing for more authentic, fulfilling connections, but don't know how to create them. I understand these struggles intimately. Before my awakening, I too grappled with the complexities of human relationships as a son, a husband, a father, and a friend. The path I discovered and wish to share with you today isn't merely philosophical teaching, it is a practical, transformative way of relating to ourselves and others that can revolutionize every relationship in your life. The foundations of this path are two precious jewels of wisdom: Karuna, the sublime quality of compassion that moves us to alleviate suffering, and Metta, the boundless loving kindness that wishes happiness and well-being for all beings without discrimination. When we learn to cultivate these qualities skillfully, they become like two wings that can lift our relationships to new heights of understanding and harmony. Let us begin with Karuna, true compassion. This is not mere pity or sympathy, but a profound recognition of suffering combined with the active intention to help. It is like the warm embrace of a mother who sees her child in pain. Her heart moves naturally to comfort and heal without judgment or condition. This quality of compassion has the power to transform even the most challenging relationships and heal the deepest wounds. Let me share a story that illustrates the essence of Karuna. A young mother named Kisa Gotami lost her only child to illness. Mad with grief, she carried her dead child from house to house, begging for medicine to revive him. When she came to me, instead of immediately telling her the harsh truth, I asked her to bring a mustard seed, but one from a house where no death had ever occurred. As she went from home to home, she gradually realized that suffering and loss are universal experiences that connect all beings. This understanding transformed her grief into compassion for all who suffer. This story teaches us several profound truths about compassion. First, that true understanding often comes not from being told what to think or believe, but from discovering truth through our own experience. Second, that our personal suffering, when understood deeply, can become a gateway to universal compassion. And third, that the heart's natural response to recognizing our shared human experience is to open in care and concern for others. Consider also the story of Angulimala, once a feared bandit who terrorized villages and took many lives. When I encountered him, others saw only a murderer deserving punishment. But with the eye of compassion, I saw beneath his violent actions to the confused and suffering heart that drove them. Through experiencing unconditional compassion, Angulimala was able to confront the pain that had driven his actions and transform his life completely. He became a model of how compassion can reach even those who seem most lost to darkness. In your modern world, practicing compassion faces unique challenges. Technology often creates an illusion of connection while masking real human needs. Social media can make us quick to judge and slow to understand. The pace of life can make us feel we don't have time for deep listening or genuine presence. Many of you spend hours each day interacting through screens, where it's easy to forget that behind every message, post, or email is a human heart capable of both suffering and joy. Yet these very challenges make compassion even more essential. In a world that often feels increasingly divided and disconnected, the practice of Karuna offers a way to rebuild authentic human connection. It invites us to look beneath surface behaviors to understand the universal human experiences that unite us all, our shared hopes, fears, and longing for happiness. Let me share a practical exercise for developing compassion in your daily life. Each morning, as you wake, take a moment to contemplate. Today, I will meet many beings who carry hidden burdens of suffering. Some may express their pain through anger, some through withdrawal, some through desperate attempts to control their environment or relationships. May I have the wisdom to recognize their pain and the courage to offer comfort and understanding. This contemplation sets an intention that can transform how you interact with everyone you meet, from your closest family members to strangers you pass on the street. It reminds us that behind every face lies a complex story of joys and sorrows, hopes and fears, struggles and triumphs. When conflicts arise, as they inevitably will, remember that behind every angry word, every hurtful action, lies a suffering heart seeking understanding. Your spouse's criticism might mask a deep fear of not being valued. Your teenager's rebellion might hide a painful search for identity. Your colleague's competitive behavior might reflect deep insecurity. By looking beneath surface behaviors to understand the underlying pain, we can respond with wisdom and care rather than reactive judgment. Let me share another story that illustrates this principle. In our monastery, there was once a young monk who constantly criticized others and created discord in the community. Rather than punishing or excluding him, the elder monks gathered to understand what might be driving his behavior. They discovered that he had come from a background of severe neglect, where criticism was the only form of attention he had received. Understanding this, they were able to respond with compassion rather than condemnation, gradually helping him develop new ways of relating to others. This approach transformed not only the young monk, but the entire community. It reminded everyone that behind difficult behavior often lies unmet needs or unhealed wounds. This understanding doesn't mean we accept harmful behavior. Rather, it allows us to address problems more effectively by addressing their root causes rather than just their surface manifestations. Practicing compassion doesn't mean accepting harmful behavior or neglecting your own well-being. True compassion includes ourselves and recognizes that sometimes the most compassionate action requires setting clear boundaries or speaking uncomfortable truths. But even these necessary acts of protection can be done with understanding and care for all involved. In your families, practice deep listening when someone shares their struggles. When your teenager slams the door or your spouse returns home stressed, pause to consider the suffering beneath their actions. Create regular times for heart-to-heart conversations where everyone can speak freely and be heard deeply. These moments of genuine connection become anchors of security and understanding in our relationships. In professional relationships, when a colleague makes a mistake or falls short of expectations, look beyond the surface behavior to understand their challenges. Even in digital communications, before sending that email, or responding to a message, pause to consider the other person's emotional state and needs. A moment of reflection can transform a potentially confrontational exchange into an opportunity for understanding and growth. Remember that compassion is not just a feeling, but a skill that can be developed through consistent practice. Like strengthening a muscle, each time we choose to respond with understanding rather than judgment, with care rather than criticism, we strengthen our capacity for compassion. This growth happens gradually through countless small choices in our daily interactions. The practice of Karuna also invites us to examine our own hearts with gentle honesty. What pain do we carry that might be influencing our relationships? What fears or unmet needs might be driving our reactions to others? This self-understanding becomes the foundation for extending genuine compassion to others. Now, let us turn to Metta, loving kindness, which complements and completes the practice of Karuna. While Karuna responds to suffering with compassion, Metta actively radiates positive wishes for happiness and well-being. These qualities work together like the sun and moon, both essential for the flourishing of our relationships. If Karuna is the heart that recognizes and responds to pain, Metta is the heart that actively nourishes joy and possibility. Metta begins with a simple yet profound aspiration. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be free from suffering. But it is far more than just a wish. It is an active force that transforms how we relate to ourselves and others. Think of it as the warm sunshine of genuine goodwill that has the power to melt the ice of resentment, fear, and isolation. Let me share a story that illustrates the transformative power of Metta. In our community, there was once a monk who faced constant criticism and hostility from another monk. Instead of responding with resentment or seeking revenge, he committed to practicing loving kindness toward his critic each day. Every morning and evening, he would sit quietly and sincerely wish for his critic's happiness and well-being. He would imagine him being peaceful, joyful, and free from whatever suffering drove his hostile behavior. At first, nothing seemed to change externally. The criticism continued, and some even questioned the practicing monk's approach. But he persisted, understanding that Metta works first by transforming our own heart. After several months, something remarkable began to happen. Not only did the critic's attitude gradually soften, but the first monk discovered he had developed greater patience, understanding, and stability in all his relationships. The practice had transformed both the giver and receiver of loving kindness. This story teaches us several important principles about Metta. First, that its power works independently of the other person's immediate response. We don't practice loving kindness to manipulate others into changing, but to cultivate the quality of love itself. Second, that the practice transforms us even before it affects others. And third, that persistent goodwill has the power to gradually dissolve barriers between hearts. In your modern lives, you might practice Metta in similar ways. Before checking your phone each morning, that moment when you first connect with the wider world, take a few moments to cultivate loving kindness. Begin with yourself. May I be happy, may I be peaceful, may I be well. Then extend these wishes to your family members, even those with whom you might be in conflict. Include your friends, colleagues, and gradually expand to include all beings. This practice might seem simple, perhaps even naive in our complex world of global challenges and interpersonal conflicts. But its power lies in its ability to gradually reshape our mental and emotional patterns. When you regularly cultivate thoughts of loving kindness, you begin to notice subtle changes in how you respond to others. The irritation with your spouse's habits might soften into understanding. The frustration with your teenager's behavior might transform into appreciation for their growing independence. Consider how Metta might transform your use of social media. Before posting or responding to comments, pause to generate genuine good wishes for all who might read your words. How might this change what you choose to share or how you express yourself? When you encounter posts that trigger anger or judgment, can you pause to wish well to the person behind the post, even while disagreeing with their views? In professional settings, Metta can revolutionize workplace relationships. Before entering a meeting, take a moment to silently wish well to everyone present. When giving feedback, let it be guided by genuine care for the other person's growth and well-being. When making decisions that affect others, consider not just efficiency and productivity, but also the impact on human hearts and relationships. Let me share another story about the power of Metta in healing relationships. A woman came to me deeply troubled by her relationship with her mother. Years of misunderstanding and hurt had created a wall between them. I guided her to practice Metta specifically focused on her mother each day. Imagine your mother as a young woman, I suggested, carrying her own hopes and fears. Imagine her as a child, vulnerable and seeking love. Send wishes for her happiness and peace. At first, the woman found this extremely difficult. Years of pain made it hard to wish well to someone who had hurt her. But gradually, as she persisted, something began to shift. She started to see her mother not just as the source of her pain, but as another human being who had also suffered and struggled. This shift in perception, born from the practice of Metta, created space for a new kind of relationship to emerge. This illustrates another crucial aspect of Metta practice. It doesn't require us to deny or suppress our pain. Rather, it helps us expand our heart to hold both our hurt and our capacity for love. It's like learning to play a new piece of music. At first, we might hit many wrong notes, but with practice, a beautiful melody emerges. The practice of Metta also has a profound effect on our relationship with ourselves. Many of you carry harsh inner critics, voices of judgment that make it difficult to extend kindness to yourself. Yet self-directed Metta is the foundation for all other forms of loving kindness. Just as a parched garden cannot nourish others, a heart empty of self-love struggles to truly love others. Begin each day by offering loving kindness to yourself. May I be safe from inner and outer harm. May I be happy and healthy. May I live with ease. Notice any resistance that arises, the voice that says you don't deserve love or peace. These moments of resistance become opportunities to practice even deeper kindness, embracing all parts of yourself with understanding. As your practice deepens, you'll discover that Metta has different qualities or flavors. Sometimes it feels like a mother's protective love, sometimes like a friend's encouraging support, sometimes like a teacher's wise guidance. All these expressions of loving kindness help create a rich tapestry of positive relationships with ourselves and others. In times of conflict, Metta becomes especially powerful when combined with Karuna. While Karuna helps us understand the suffering behind difficult behavior, Metta adds the positive wish for the other person's welfare. Together, they create a balanced response that neither ignores problems nor gets lost in negativity. For example, when dealing with a difficult colleague, Karuna might help you recognize their insecurity or stress, while Metta guides you to genuinely wish for their success and well-being. This combination creates a foundation for constructive dialogue and problem solving that maintains both truth and kindness. Remember that practicing metta doesn't mean becoming passive or avoiding necessary confrontations. Sometimes the most loving action requires speaking difficult truths or setting firm boundaries. But when these actions arise from a foundation of genuine goodwill, they're more likely to lead to positive transformation rather than escalating conflict. Let me share one more story about the power of combining metta with clear action. In our monastery, there was once a situation where a senior monk was behaving in ways that harmed the community. The other monks gathered to address the problem, but before taking any action, they spent time practicing metta together, genuinely wishing for their colleagues' welfare. This preparation helped them approach the difficult conversation with clarity and care rather than anger or judgment. As a result, the senior monk was able to hear their concerns and make necessary changes without feeling attacked or humiliated. Let us now explore how to weave together Karuna and Metta in specific contexts of your daily lives. Like two hands working together, compassion and loving kindness support each other in creating and maintaining healthy relationships. When these qualities are balanced and integrated, they create a foundation for genuine connection and mutual understanding that can transform every aspect of our lives. In family relationships, where both the greatest joys and deepest challenges often arise, the combination is particularly powerful. Consider parenting when your child is struggling with schoolwork or friendships. Karuna helps you recognize their suffering without judgment, while Metta guides your response with loving intention. Together, they help you respond to challenging behavior with both understanding and firm guidance. I am reminded of a father who came to me, deeply distressed about his teenage son's rebellion. The father's attempts to control his son's behavior had only created more distance between them. Their home had become a battlefield of angry confrontations and cold silences. I guided him to practice both qualities, to see the suffering behind his son's actions, Karuna, while maintaining steady loving, kindness, and metta. Before speaking with your son, I advised, take a moment to recognize his inner struggles, the confusion, insecurity, and need for independence that drive his behavior. Then, let your words and actions be guided by genuine wishes for his well-being. The father practiced this approach diligently, even when his son remained distant. Gradually, something began to shift. The son, feeling his father's genuine understanding and care, began to open up about his fears and hopes. Their relationship transformed from conflict to collaboration. In marriages and partnerships, this combined practice can transform conflicts into opportunities for deeper connection. When your partner is distant or irritable, Karuna helps you recognize their underlying struggles without taking it personally, while Metta guides you to respond with patience and care. Try this simple practice during conflicts. Take 3 conscious breaths, then ask yourself, what suffering might be behind my partner's words? Is Karuna. What would be most helpful for their well-being right now? Metta. Let me share the story of a couple who came to me on the brink of separation. Years of unmet needs and accumulated hurts had created a wall between them. I guided them to practice both Karuna and Metta in their daily interactions. Each morning, they would take time to recognize each other's struggles and consciously wish for each other's happiness. When conflicts arose, they learned to pause and look beneath the surface of angry words to understand the pain and longing underneath. One day, the wife shared a profound realization. I used to see his criticism as attacks on me, but now I can see the fear and love behind his words. fear that we're growing apart, love that wants to keep us close. Her husband, in turn, learned to express his concerns with more understanding and kindness. Their story reminds us that even long-standing relationship patterns can shift when we approach them with both compassion and loving kindness. For those caring for aging parents, these qualities become essential tools. When roles reverse and you must make decisions for their well-being, Karuna helps you understand their fear of losing independence, while Metta guides you to provide care with respect and tenderness. This combination helps navigate the complex emotions and practical challenges of caregiving while maintaining dignity and connection. I remember counseling a woman struggling to care for her mother with dementia. The mother's confusion often led to angry outbursts and accusations. Through tears, the daughter confessed feeling both exhausted and guilty about her own frustration. We worked on integrating Karuna and Metta into her daily caregiving routine. She learned to see her mother's fear behind the angry words, Karuna, while actively cultivating good wishes for both her mother and herself, Metta. This approach helped her maintain emotional balance while providing better care. In professional life, this dual practice can transform workplace dynamics. When managing a team member who consistently underperforms, Karuna helps you understand their challenges, while Metta guides you to respond in ways that maintain both accountability and support. This balanced approach creates an environment where growth and excellence can flourish. Consider the story of a business leader who transformed her company culture through these practices. Instead of simply implementing stricter policies when problems arose, she began each meeting by inviting everyone to consider both the challenges and aspirations of their colleagues. Performance reviews became opportunities for both honest feedback and genuine support. Over time, this approach led to higher productivity and job satisfaction, proving that compassion and kindness are not just spiritual qualities, but practical business tools. In digital communications and social media, where misunderstandings easily arise, combine Karuna. Pause to consider what might be behind a provocative post or angry email. Metta. Craft responses that contribute to understanding rather than division. Before engaging with social media, take a moment to remember that behind every post is a human being seeking happiness and avoiding suffering, just like you. When you encounter views that trigger strong reactions, practice extending understanding to the fear or pain that might motivate such views, while maintaining good wishes for all involved. For those in helping professions, teachers, healthcare workers, counselors, this combined practice is crucial for preventing burnout while maintaining effective service. Karuna keeps you sensitive to others, suffering without becoming overwhelmed, while Metta helps maintain positive energy in your work. I once worked with a group of emergency room nurses who were struggling with compassion fatigue. We developed a simple practice they could use between patients, taking 3 breaths, acknowledging the suffering they had just witnessed as Karuna, then generating positive wishes for both their patients and themselves, Metta. This brief practice helped them maintain their emotional balance while providing better care. Let me share a practical daily framework that integrates both qualities. Morning practice. Begin with self-directed metta. May I be well. May I be peaceful. Set an intention to recognize suffering with understanding. Karuna. Extend loving wishes to those you'll meet today. Metta. Throughout the day, practice presence in each interaction. Notice signs of both joy and suffering. Respond with both understanding and active kindness. Take brief moments between activities To renew your intention, use challenging interactions as opportunities to deepen your practice. Evening reflection. Review your interactions with both Karuna and Metta. Acknowledge moments of successful practice. Note opportunities for growth without self-judgment. Extend good wishes to all beings before sleep. This framework provides a structure while remaining flexible enough to adapt to your specific circumstances. The key is consistency rather than perfection. Each time you remember to practice, you strengthen these qualities in your heart. Remember that this path is not about perfection, but about consistent practice. There will be times when you forget, when old patterns emerge, when it seems too difficult to respond with both compassion and loving kindness. This is natural. The key is to return to the practice gently, knowing that each moment offers a fresh opportunity. Let me share one final story that illustrates the transformative power of this combined practice. A woman came to me overwhelmed by family conflicts and work stress. Her relationships were strained, her health was suffering, and she felt trapped in patterns of reaction and resentment. I asked her to spend 1 week responding to every situation with both Karuna and Metta. At first, she found it nearly impossible. Her habitual reactions would take over before she could remember to practice. But gradually, as she persisted in looking for the suffering behind others' actions, said Karuna, while maintaining an intention of kindness, Metta, she noticed remarkable changes. Conversations that once ended in arguments began to lead to understanding. Relationships that had been frozen in old patterns began to thaw and transform. Most surprisingly, she found herself changing in unexpected ways. "I'm not just responding differently to others," she told me. "I'm experiencing life differently. I feel more spacious inside, more capable of holding both life's pain and its beauty." As we draw our exploration to a close, let us weave together these teachings into practical wisdom that you can carry forward. The integration of Karuna and Metta is not merely a spiritual practice. It is a practical path to transforming your relationships and, through them, your entire life experience. Consider these essential truths about the practice. First, every interaction, no matter how brief, offers an opportunity to practice both compassion and loving kindness. Whether you're greeting a barista, attending a meeting, or having dinner with family, each moment invites you to recognize suffering with understanding and respond with active care. Second, this practice transforms not only your relationships with others, but also your relationship with yourself. As you extend understanding and kindness to others, you naturally become more gentle and accepting of your own struggles and imperfections. This inner transformation becomes the foundation for all outer changes. Third, the benefits extend far beyond individual relationships. When we practice these qualities consistently, we contribute to creating more harmonious families, workplaces, and communities. Each act of compassion and loving kindness sends ripples of positive change into the world, touching lives in ways we may never know. To support your ongoing practice, remember these key principles. Start with yourself. Just as a parent must be nourished to feed their child, your capacity to offer compassion and loving kindness to others grows from your self-relationship. Take time each day to nurture your own heart with understanding and care. Keep it simple but steady. You need not dramatically change your life or become a different person. Simply bring awareness and intention to your daily interactions, choosing whenever possible to respond with understanding and care. Small, consistent actions create lasting transformation. Trust the process. The changes may be subtle at first, but like water wearing away stone, consistent practice gradually transforms even the most challenging relationships. Have patience with yourself and others as new patterns of relating take root and grow. Use daily life as your practice ground. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to deepen your understanding and expand your heart's capacity for kindness. The very situations that once caused stress can become doorways to greater wisdom and love. Share through example. As others witness the peace and harmony that develops in your relationships, they may be inspired to explore this path themselves. Your practice becomes a light that helps illuminate the way for others. Remember that you are not alone on this path. Every person who practices compassion and loving kindness joins a stream of goodwill that has flowed through human history, bringing light to dark places and healing to wounded hearts. Your practice adds to this stream, making it stronger for all who follow. The promise of these teachings is not that life will become free of difficulties, but that we can learn to navigate its challenges with greater wisdom, grace, and connection. Every relationship becomes an opportunity for growth and transformation. Every interaction holds the potential for healing and understanding. And finally, remember that this practice is not separate from your life. It is your life, expressed moment by moment through your relationships with others. Every time you choose understanding over judgment, every time you respond with kindness instead of reactivity, you strengthen these qualities not only in yourself, but in our shared human community. May you go forth from here with renewed inspiration and practical tools for transforming your relationships through the twin powers of Karuna and Metta. May your practice bring benefit to yourself and all beings. May all beings be happy, peaceful, and free from suffering. Thank you for opening your hearts and minds to these teachings. May they serve you well on your journey of awakening and connection. Peace be with you all.